Hey everybody, this is Mike. Welcome back to the Z Motorsports channel and my shop. We're going to do another Saturday morning shop tour. It's about the first part of November here in northern Utah. It's a little starting to cool off a little bit now. So it's been, I think the last video I actually did was shop tour number 1, so a couple months ago, and it's when we had just started on my son's WJ. So we've been working on it a couple months now. We pretty much had to build it from the ground up, and we're on the final, well, I shouldn't say final assembly, getting close to the final assembly of all the parts now. So I thought maybe I'd just take you on a real quick shop tour this morning and walk around the project and kind of show you what's been going on. Last couple of months, we've really only had a few hours, a couple nights a week, and then on the weekends. So the progress has been slow, but it's been steady. So we've come a long ways. This WJ ought to be pretty mean when it hits the streets. So we're getting down to the exciting part now today. So anyway, I'm going to go handheld. I'm just going to kind of walk around the shop and kind of show you some of the parts, some of the components, and kind of give you a heads up on where we're at. And then hopefully the next time you see it, it'll actually be sitting on the ground on all 4 tires and under its own power. So I'll take you around the shop. Well, to start off, here's all of my son's suspension that we've been building. So we, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the last video or not, but we'd taken JK Dana 44 axles. The rear axle was out of a 16 JK Unlimited non-Rubicon, so it has the symmetrical axle shafts, and then he's going to run a true track in it. So there is the rear axle all built and awaiting to be installed into the Jeep. So we just picked up the, it actually has a cross member up over the top that we welded on that will be a triangulated 4-link. And then the rear shocks, we have to build the upper mounts for the rear shocks yet. And then here's all of his Cartec limiting straps that we need to, once we get the links and the rear axle mounted in place and we figure out the stretch, we'll mount the limiting straps. And again, here's all the links that we fabricated from scratch. It's all, the lowers are all 2-inch, 1/4-inch wall DOM. The uppers are 1.5 1/4-inch wall DOM, and then it's got the tube adapters fitted into them. Fronts are a Y-link, so we took and put about, I think this is about a 10-degree bend in them, and then built the brackets, built all this stuff in-house for the upper Y-links. That'll have an adjustable Johnny joint here and work and mount up to the upper rod, or the upper bushing on the front axle. Track bar out of 1.5 1/4 wall DOM. Again, we built that all in-house. So all the suspension we built in-house. We just got it laid out here right now. Like I said, we just picked it up from the powder coater. We've got to run, some of the threads got a little bit of powder coating on them. I asked them to tape those off, but they never really do a great job taping those off, but they do a good job on the powder coating. So just got to run a tap through some of those, and then they're ready to reassemble, and we can start putting the rear suspension together and get working on the shock mounts and limiting straps. So again, here is my big brown box that will be an upcoming project. Here's his front and rear coil springs for his lift. He's going to run reed knuckles on it, just basically because the front housing is mild housing out of my 11 JK Unlimited Rubicon, so it didn't have knuckles or brakes or any of that stuff on it. So while he was at it, he just went ahead and ordered the reed knuckles for it. And here's a JK rear sway bar, a heavy-duty one from Hellwig that we're going to adapt onto the rear of his WJ. There's his old transfer case, that the 247 that we pulled out. Here's his 10 factory 41, actually I think they're 4340 chromoly shafts. They're going to be going in the rear axle. Just waiting on some time to put those together. Again, his tires, and here's a big, this is what I like walking in the door. There's a lot of parts that are missing here. This pile of parts come clear out to here. Oh, up until a couple months, up until probably about, 3 weeks ago probably, till we started assembling taking parts out of boxes and putting them on the Jeep. So there's his, he went TerraFlex heavy duty flip drag link and tie rod, and then his 10 factory front chrome molly axle shafts, and a few other little odds and ends left, shocks, differential cover, a couple things like that. That's all ready to go into the front axle. There's a 6L80 GM 6L80 transmission and a Jeep 241J transfer case. Again, here's my big brown box of project fun. There's a bunch of other parts that I've been collecting for the last, I don't know, about 4 months now for an upcoming project. So it's kind of a secret what's inside, but it'll be revealed soon enough. More parts over here for the same project. Again, be revealed here pretty quick, so stay tuned. Bunch more parts over here for same said project. So I've just been collecting a few here and there as I can, and I've just about got all the parts ready for my project as soon as my son's is done. And there's his front axle on the stand ready to be reassembled. He just painted it the other night, so it's ready to go. We put the we used the Arctic Industries raised track bar mount, and then added some other gussets to it. That is a nice beefy bracket, 1/4 inch plate, all laser cut and keyed, so it fits together very nicely. When we welded it and burned it into the axle really good, plus I added a couple other gussets, tied it back here into the spring bucket. Like I said, welded it down, attached the spring bucket as well as underneath, so that's welded in very, very securely. And one thing worth pointing out, I've seen a few people that have put these JK axles under the WJ, and they've left the spring buckets where they were originally. The problem with that is when you have your coil springs come down off of the JK axle is actually a little wider than the WJ, and so the springs will come down and bow slightly out in order to fit into the JK buckets. We opted to cut the spring buckets off, move them inboard the correct distance. I think it was about 1 7/16 inches per side, in order for the coil springs to come straight down out of the bucket up in the WJ's frame perch and be able to come straight down onto the buckets so that they won't be kicked out to the side. So let's see, he's going with the TerraFlex big brake kit, because like I said, there was no brakes on this to begin with, so seeing as how he was starting from scratch, he went ahead and bought all the big rotors and the brackets for the rear. These are just, he didn't have any calipers, so these are just OE replacement brake calipers for the rear. There's my shim assembly, just a drawer full of various shims and everything for axles, so ready to, here's all his parts for his gear. It's the Eaton True Track, not True Track, True Track's in the rear. Sorry, this is the E-Locker version for the stock Rubicon front axle, and then 456 ring and pinion. So this is ready to be assembled. Here's all of his gasket, ABS sensors front and rear, and wiring we've got to modify. Steering stabilizer clamp, pinion flange for the front axle, so we can run the Tom Woods drive shafts front and rear. Once we get the axles in, we can get them measured. A few other little odds and ends parts, bearing heater, bearing removal. So coming along over here again, here's this rear axle sitting here ready to go in. The brakes are sitting on the flange right now. We just have to put the axle shafts in and bolt them all in place, and this is ready to bolt up in. Transfer case. Let's see if we can see the transfer case, but it's a 231. So you put a slip yoke eliminator on it, and then the rear flange on the back can run either 1310, or if he decides to down the road, 1350. He's going to run 1310 for the time being, seeing as how 1350 is probably a little overkill. So there's this triangulated 4-link bracketry for the rear. So once we get it all mocked up one last time, we'll go ahead and he'll paint the frame rails and then it's ready for final assembly. All right, that's pretty much it for a quick little shop tour. So again, it may not look like there's a lot done, but we've done a lot of work on this Jeep, and it's done nicely. We've kind of crossed all of our T's and dotted all of our I's. There's a few WJs running around here in northern Utah, but I think this will be probably one of the nicer built ones, just because of the manner and the degree in which we're going on it. Some of the other ones, they're just thrown up in the air with a lift under them and then taken off road and beat on and flogged on, where this is going to be his daily driver and weekend wheeler. He wanted to spend a little more time and really do it up nice, so we've built all the suspension from scratch, took the extra time to move the buckets over, all those little things that I think are really going to set this build aside and apart from any of the other WJs in the area. So I'm really excited to get this thing down on the ground. It's going to be clean. There's a little spot of rust on one of his doors that we need to touch up come spring, but other than that, he searched for quite a while to find a clean, kind of a virgin WJ to start with, and this one's pretty clean. So it's got a few miles on it, but it's a good starting point. It wasn't all beat up to begin with. It was all stock when he started. So this is really going to be a nice build for him, and should last him a lot of years and a lot of miles, and hopefully enjoyable off-road miles. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to follow me around a quick little tour here this morning. And hopefully we'll be able to come back with some more updates, maybe another Saturday morning shop tour, and give you an update on this, and maybe reveal the big brown box, the secret big brown box. So stay tuned. Thank you.